For over 12 centuries it was a ghost story, a legend whispered by Greek historians. They spoke of a magnificent city at the mouth of the Nile, a gateway to Egypt, so grand that even Helen of Troy was said to have walked its streets. They called it Heracleion, named after the demigod Hercules himself. But as the centuries turned millennia, the city vanished. Its temples, treasures, and towering statues were swallowed by time and the sea. The story of Heracleion faded from history into myth, becoming another Atlantis, a fable of a world lost beneath the waves. But this is not a story about myth. This is the story of what happens when the myth turns out to be real. Our story begins not in ancient Egypt, but in the modern world, with a man possessed by history, Frank Gaudio, a French underwater archaeologist. He wasn't buried in dusty books. He was a pioneer who believed the future of archaeology lay in the dark, silent depths of the ocean. For years, Gaudio was captivated by the legends of the Egyptian coast. He had a radical theory that the ancient writers weren't just telling stories. He believed that somewhere in the murky waters of Abu Qir Bay, the remains of this lost world were waiting. The academic world was skeptical. The Nile Delta is a notoriously difficult place to search. For thousands of years, the river has deposited billions of tons of silt, creating a thick, impenetrable blanket over the seabed. Searching for a specific city in this underwater wasteland was considered a fool's errand. But Gaudio had a secret weapon: technology. Using highly sensitive magnetic survey equipment and side-scan sonar, his team began a systematic sweep of the bay. They weren't looking for gold. They were looking for anomalies, faint magnetic signatures in the mud that might indicate man-made objects. For years, the search yielded nothing but frustration. The vastness of the bay was overwhelming. The equipment picked up countless false positives, shipwrecks from World War II, modern debris, geological formations. It was a painstaking, soul-crushing process of elimination, dragging sensitive equipment through the water, day after day, under the blazing Egyptian sun. The ghost city remained a ghost. Gaudio and his team were chasing a whisper in the dark. And then, in the year 2000, after years of mapping nothing but mud, they found something. 6 kilometers off the coast, in a sector they had almost given up on, their instruments registered a massive, undeniable anomaly. It was too big, too defined, to be a random shipwreck. The team's excitement was electric, but tempered with caution. They had been disappointed before. A diver was sent down into the cold, dark water. Visibility was near zero. The sunlight barely pierced the first few feet of the murky bay, and as he descended, the world turned to a dark green twilight. He was guided only by the voice from the ship. As his feet touched the soft silt of the seafloor, he swept his light through the gloom. At first, he saw nothing. Just endless, swirling sediment. And then a shape began to emerge from the darkness. It was a wall of black stone. As he moved closer, the beam of his torch traveled upwards, revealing something impossible. Carved into the stone, staring back at him from the abyss, was a face, a colossal, perfectly preserved face of a god. He had found it. The discovery sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. This wasn't just a statue. It was the key. Soon the entire area was teeming with activity, a delicate underwater ballet of divers and robotic submersibles. What they began to uncover was beyond anyone's wildest dreams. This wasn't a scattered ruin. It was an entire city, frozen in time beneath 10 meters of water and a thick layer of mud. The team began to raise the artifacts, each one a breathtaking piece of a forgotten puzzle. First came the colossal statues, 3-story-high figures of red granite, weighing several tons each. They were the gods and rulers of Egypt, Hapi, the god of the Nile, and a Ptolemaic queen, each one carved with astonishing detail, their surfaces protected from the corrosive salt water by the very mud that had hidden them. They broke the surface of the water like ghosts, returning to the world of the living, water cascading from their stone eyes after more than 1,000 years of silent slumber. As the divers explored the underwater site, the layout of the city began to reveal itself. They discovered the remains of the grand temple of Amun-Gareb, the supreme god of the Egyptians. They found a network of canals that crisscrossed the city, confirming the ancient descriptions of Heracleion as a city of water. In these silent, submerged canals, they found a stunning graveyard of ships. Over 70 ancient Egyptian vessels deliberately sunk, each one a perfectly preserved time capsule. But the most important discovery was yet to come. Amidst the ruins of the temple, they found a massive stone slab, nearly 2 meters tall, covered in inscriptions. It was a stele, a royal decree from the pharaoh Nectanebo I, dating back to the 4th century B.C. As scholars began to translate the hieroglyphics, they solved a puzzle that had baffled historians for centuries. The stele declared that a tax was to be collected in a city called Thonis. For years, historians had known of Thonis from Egyptian records and Heracleion from Greek records, assuming they were 2 separate cities. The stele proved they were one and the same. Heracleion was the name given by the Greeks. Thonis was its true Egyptian name. The ghost finally had a name. With this new understanding, the city's story came into focus. Honis-Heracleion was the main gateway to Egypt in the late period, the country's premier port for international trade. All ships from the Greek world had to enter Egypt through its canals. It was a bustling cosmopolitan metropolis, a center of commerce, religion, and culture. The hundreds of stone anchors found on the seabed, from ships all across the Mediterranean, were a testament to its importance. It was the New York, the London, the Shanghai of its time. A city built on water and trade, the vital link between the civilization of the pharaohs and the rising power of the Greeks. It was a place of immense wealth and power, a city that seemed destined to last forever, which led to the final, terrifying question: what happened to it? How could a city this powerful simply vanish from the face of the earth? The answer lay not in war or conquest, but in the very ground upon which the city was built. Geologists on Gaudio's team analyzed soil cores from the seabed and uncovered the city's fatal flaw. Honis-Heracleion was built on an unstable block of clay and sand, saturated with water from the Nile. It was, in geological terms, a ticking time bomb. Sometime around the 2nd century B.C., a major earthquake struck the region. The violent shaking caused a rare and catastrophic phenomenon known as soil liquefaction. The solid ground beneath the city literally turned to liquid. The massive stone buildings, the temples, the colossal statues, their foundations gave way in an instant. The entire central island of the city, with its grand temple, was swallowed whole by the sea. It didn't sink slowly over decades. It collapsed in a single apocalyptic event. In the following centuries, rising sea levels and subsequent earthquakes would submerge the rest. until by the 8th century A.D., the once great metropolis was completely gone, wiped off the map. Today, the exploration continues. Each new artifact brought to the surface adds another sentence to the story of the city that was lost twice, first to the sea and then to time. The discovery of honis-Heracleion is more than just a remarkable feat of archaeology. It is a chilling reminder of the fragility of civilization. It proves that even the greatest cities, the centers of human power and ingenuity, can be reclaimed by nature in the blink of an eye. For 1,200 years the gods of Heracleion slept in their watery graves, their stone eyes staring into the darkness. They were the silent keepers of a story that the world had forgotten, waiting patiently in the deep for the day they would rise again and tell their tale. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. If you were as amazed by this story as we were, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the lost corners of history. See you next time.